Hello and welcome to Thrive Church. Thank you for joining us for this online church experience. We're so happy that you joined us today. My name's AJ, and before we get into our message with Pastor Josh, I've got just a few announcements I want to let you know about. The first one is, as of you seeing this video today, we have moved our in-person services to Webster Elementary School in the Madera Ranchos. We're so thankful for the last couple of months that we've spent at the Pacific Martial Arts Gym. It was a great relationship for us. We're so thankful for the way that they partnered with us and worked with us to host our services there. And we are ready to move into our next venue, a bigger room where we can grow as a church and reach more lives together. So we are excited about that. Join us every Sunday in person, 10:30 a.m. Our services are now at 10:30 a.m. at Webster Elementary School in the Madera Ranchos. It's just off of Avenue 12. You can Google it. You can also just let us know, comment, message, email, however you want to get a hold of us. If you need to know what the address is, we can let you know. But we would love to see you in person at Webster Elementary School at 10:30 on Sunday mornings. You won't want to miss it. Next week, we are doing a special Mother's Day service. So we would love for you to join us Sunday, May 9th at 10:30 at Webster. For our Mother's Day service, we're going to have gifts for moms, a place where you can take pictures together as a family. So bring your moms, bring your friends, bring your friends' moms, whatever you want to do. We want to see you there 10:30 at Webster Elementary next Sunday, all right? So be there for our Mother's Day service. It's going to be a great time. And we are looking to get life groups started. So if you want to be a part of a life group, in fact, you know what? You need to be a part of a life group. God created us and called us into community and to minister to one another through relationship, and one way that we do that is through what we call life groups. You might have heard them called small groups. Maybe it's just your group of friends, but we would love for you to gather 3 or 4 of your friends, get together on a weekly basis. You can watch the online message together. We're also going to be providing questions through our sermon outlines, where you guys can just talk through each week's message together. And it's also a great way for you to have that close-knit community where you can share prayer requests, you can let each other know what's going on in your lives, and you can help to build each other up in the way that God created us to. If you're interested in getting started with one of those, or you want more information, you can always fill out a connection card. In fact, we'd love for you to fill out a connection card by following the link in the comments section down below. You'll see our online connection card. That's going to be a great way for you to get connected with us. Let us know if you have a prayer request or a question, or if there's another way you might like to get plugged in. So go ahead and click that link, fill out your information, let us know you were here. That's how we want to get connected with you. Finally, we would love for you to partner with us through the giving of your gifts and offerings. You can do that online by clicking the link in the comment section below labeled Online Giving Platform. That'll take you to our page where you can give online if you would like to do that. Of course, you can also give in person at our services. We would love to partner with you in receiving your gifts to help us do what God has called Thrive to do. So we thank you for that. Those are the announcements for today. Let's get into our message with Pastor Josh.
Well, hey, Thrive Church, my name is Josh, and welcome to another week. We are so excited because a lot of really awesome things are happening. We are launching next week on the 9th on Mother's Day, and we're going to be doing a lot of fun things at Webster Elementary at 10:30 in the Madera Ranchos, and we'd love you to be there so that we can just celebrate our moms. It's Mother's Day, and let's together as a community celebrate together. Well, today, I'm just so excited to get into what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about church, rocks, maybe the rock, Peter Pan, and goats. Are you excited? Are you interested? Let's dive into the message today. I don't know what you think about when you think about church. I don't know what comes into your mind when you think about church. But when I think about church, I think about this. This is a Lincoln. And I don't know, it's a Lincoln Town Car. I don't know how these things existed, but somehow these cars in the 90s could fit 100 children in them. And I remember being in one of these town cars as a 6-year-old and with my grandmother driving to church, and with the incentive that if we are quiet in church, my grandma will give us a half a stick of big red gum. That was like my first impression of church as a child, remembering driving to church in a big Lincoln town car. I also remember on my other side going to church. My other side is Armenian, and I remember seeing people with huge beards chanting and crying in languages I didn't understand. Those were my earliest conceptions of church. And today I'm asking this question: what is the church? What is it? What is this thing that we do called church? I think that church should be the most welcoming spot for outsiders, for people that don't know Jesus. Jesus said, like, I haven't come for the healthy, I've come for the sick. I want to bring in and embrace those people that are sick, that don't know how to get better. And I feel like that's how our churches should be. At the root of our church, I think church is a congregation, it's a celebration, and really it's a declaration of life and of love. But really, like, man, again, I want to ask you this question: what is church? There's a guy named Gandhi, and he once said that, I love Christ. He said, I do not like your Christians, though. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Karl Marx, the guy that was so famous for propelling communism and socialism forward, once said that advances in science will help to delegitimize the rule of kings and the power of the church. And he said that hundreds of years ago, and the church is still alive today. What's going on? What is this thing? You know, in America, we know that in a Gallup poll, 50% of Americans belong to a church right now. But since 1999, that number has dropped by 20%. And it's projected that this year, 1/5 of all churches in America will die. So what is the church? I just want to say this. Look, church isn't about the place, it's about the people. Church isn't about the place, it's about the people. Man, I believe that the church is the most beautiful thing in the world. It can help to save the world. It can refound the world. It was the spot where people would bring to the forefront adoption, where they would start universities, where creativity would be an overflowing of the love that was expressed in the body of Christ. But it can also, and was also, used for bad things throughout the history of the world. And right now, more than ever, people are checking out of church. So what is it? The church, in all actuality, it just means a gathering, or it means a group of people or called out ones. The word for church in the New Testament in the Greek is ekklesia, which means called out ones. People that are called out for specific tasks together. And as we invest and try to figure out what this thing called the church is, I don't want to do this on purpose, but I do want to ruin Peter Pan for you, possibly. Look, as we talk about the church, we're going to talk about where the first conception of the church came from in the story of the Bible. There's a place called Caesarea Philippi that Jesus would go with his disciples to. It was across the sea from where he lived, the Sea of Galilee. And this place, the place called Caesarea Philippi, represented the most evil, the most duplicitous, the most ugly side of human nature. It was gross. It was ugly. And Jesus went there on purpose. Check this out. This is the truth for you. Look, Jesus often leads us towards places where we don't want to go. And in this section of scripture we're going to be talking about today, Jesus takes his disciples to this place that they probably didn't want to go because it was unclean, it was unsafe, and it was unhealthy. Caesarea Philippi was a place that worshiped this god called Pan. And that's where we get the modern conception of Peter Pan. But it was a very weird thing that was going on in Caesarea Philippi. Pan worship was there. Pan was the god of fertility. And literally at this place called Caesarea Philippi, they were so perverse that the people at Caesarea Philippi were known for having sexual relations with goats. And I don't want to say that again. Just if you need to, just rewind. I don't want to say it again. It's weird. But look, Pan was the son of a god named Hermes, who was a messenger god who brought life or news from the underworld into the land of the living, into the gods. He was the messenger. And there was another god in this land called Caesarea Philippi called Hades. And at Caesarea Philippi, there was this huge cave where the Sea of Galilee flowed into. And in this cave, it was said, this was called the gates of Hades. Hades was the god of the underworld. Hades was the god that guarded the dead. And Hades was the representation of death on the earth. And this is where Jesus says, I'm going to plant my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. This was an evil spot. Look, this is a spot where people would literally be known in the ancient world to throw their babies into Hades in order to try to manipulate the gods so that the next year's harvest would be good, so that the people wouldn't starve, so that Pan, the god of fertility, would bless them with fertility that would bless them with a new year of growth, so that they could manipulate and use the gods. And that's where Jesus shows up on the scene. In Matthew chapter 16, we get a clip of the story, and Jesus is standing at Caesarea Philippi. It says this: when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do you say the Son of Man is?" It's not on accident that Jesus is asking his disciples this at this spot. They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock, what is the rock? The rock is this confession of faith. When we confess our faith that Jesus is the Messiah, our faith turns into a rock, a fortress that's impenetrable. And he says this, and I will build my church on that, and the gates of Hades will not overcome this. Now check it out. He's saying this at the literal gates of Hades, at the literal gates of hell. And I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. You have divine power. Then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. He says this at the gates of Hades. Look, I don't really understand totally what the church is. But I do know this: that the church is a vehicle that spreads God's good news to the world. That throughout the centuries, the church has been the force that has brought the goodness of God into the world. I do know that the gates of Hades lie in shambles. It's a tourist site. But the church is thriving all over the world. I do know that the church, I believe, is the beauty that will save the world, and is the vehicle to which God gives us the right to share his good news with the world. So what is the church? Again, I know that I'm passionately in love with it. I know that I'll lay down my life for it. I know that it's hurt me. I know that it's probably hurt some of you. I know that I want every single person in this world to know that the church loves them, And I want every single person in this world to be a part of the church and to be a part of community. I want to be a person that is bringing people in that feel shut out from the church. And I want to be an ambassador for the next generation for what the church could be and not necessarily what it is right now. I know that the church is built off of our confession of faith. And I know that Jesus built his church on Peter's profession of faith. So what is the church? The church is this. The church is a congregation. The church is a congregation. Now that's an old school word, but really what is a congregation? A congregation is simply a gathering or a collection of people or animals or things. It's just a bunch of people together. That's why it's so important to be a part of a life group. That's why it's so important to be doing your life with other people. You need to have a congregation of people that you are doing your life with. Look, Jesus says, for where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am with them. The Ecclesiastes author writes this. He says, though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves, and a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. There's power in unity. There's power when we come together and we say, I've got your back like a JanSport, bro. I've got you. Whatever you're going through, I'm with you, and I will not be divided. The church is a congregation. The church is also a celebration. The church is also a celebration. Do you know that in the book of Luke, that's the third gospel narrative in our New Testament. It's written by a guy named Luke. And in every single chapter, starting from chapter 1, there's a party that Jesus is at. Why? Because Jesus is the master of ceremonies. At the end of time, there's a banquet that Jesus produces, that Jesus is all about celebration and celebrating life with other people. That the church should be a celebration. This is what the author of Hebrews writes. He says, let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the days of Jesus' return are drawing near. That word encourage simply means to lift one another up. We lift one another up. We celebrate. We're part of something awesome. You know that you, by literally being there at a gathering of a church in person, can encourage someone else and elevate their life and make their life better. That's what the church is at its inception. That's what the church was at its inception. That's what the church is today. And because of this, we have the divine power to demolish fear together. It's really hard to fight loneliness and fear and anger by ourselves, but together we can overcome fear because we have the power of love expressed on the cross when Jesus spread out his arms for us in forgiveness of the world. The Bible would even say there's no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. Because fear has to do with punishment. But punishment is taken away once we believe in Jesus. Because all the wrath, all the death, everything that we had on us because of our sin was taken 2,000 years ago on the cross. When Jesus died, was buried, and was resurrected so that you and I could have life. Look, that's a gospel message. That's a hope that we have, and that's the reason why we can celebrate. Lastly, the church is a declaration. Really, the church is a declaration of war. And I don't know if you've really noticed this, but gates are not offensive. They're fences. Gates are literally fences. You don't go to war and put a fence out. No, a fence is to stop people from coming in. The church is a declaration of war going against the societal and weird things of our world in order to break down walls of hostility, hate, and violence in order to bring in faith, hope, and love. The church is a declaration of war against the darkness in our world, that we might be light in a dark time. Look, this is what Colossians says. And having disarmed the powers and authorities, Jesus, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. The Bible would tell us that literally Satan, our enemy, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for people that he can consume, devour. He tries to punk us because he's a punk. But Jesus says that greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. And you, when you confess me, are so powerful that literally the gates of hell will not prevail against me. No matter how strong hell is, heaven is on my side forever. Look, the church should be the representation of God's beauty in this world. Church isn't about a place, it's about the people. Church isn't about a place, it's about the people. I love what one author said. He said that art is love, creating a new world, and justice is love, rolling up its sleeves to heal the old one. I think that we can be a part of this. 2,000 years ago, Jesus went to this place called Caesarea Philippi, and he said, at the epicenter of pagan worship, where people were throwing their children into the waters, trying to make a change, pleading with the gods, where they were so just morally despicable. That's where Jesus said he would build his church. I want to ask you to do something, wherever you're at right now. As you're watching me online, I want to ask you to just close your eyes. And in this moment, I want to invite you to just do an exercise with me. I want you to think about a time in your life where you experienced something that was horrendous. Or maybe there's something in your life that seems too big for you right now. I want you to imagine yourself being at that spot. And then I want you to imagine Jesus walking into that spot and putting his arm around your shoulder and him saying, look, I see how big this seems to you, but look, on this I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. You guys can open your eyes. It's your time to stand with that thing which will never go away. I know Karl Marx said it would. I know throughout centuries people said the church would. But it's your time to stand with the church if you'd like to. The church is never going to disappear. The church is never going to go anywhere. The church is thriving throughout the world. It's just not doing great in our current context. Would you be a person that would be a part of the new thing that God is doing in his old way? Would you consider being a part of our church as we move forward in this world? And hey, if you would like to declare that Jesus is your Lord, you can do that by praying a simple prayer just like this. You can just say, Jesus, I give you my life. And if you want to take your next steps and be baptized, you can do that by writing in the connection card online right here. We would love it for you to be a part of our church. And remember, the church is not a place. It's not about the place. It's about the people. We hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you next week. Invite your family out for Mother's Day at the Madera Ranchos, and have a great week. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Josh, for such a great message. Man, I hope you were encouraged by that today. Couple reminders before we go. The first one is, please let us know you were here. Fill out an online connection card by following the link down below. You can let us know about any prayer requests or any decisions you might have made during this service time today. And lastly, just a reminder, if you'd like to give to what Thrive is doing, you can do that by following the giving platform link in the comments section down below. We're so thankful you joined us today. We would love to see you here next week or in person at our services. Online service goes live at 9:30. Our in-person service starts at 10:30 at Webster Elementary. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week.